On behalf of everyone associated with Urban Youth, I want to welcome all of you here to the School of the Future for the release of our e-mentoring lessons learned. And later on, the Showing of Black in America documentary produced by journalist Soledad O'Brien. Urban Youth was born out of a highly successful urban youth racing school established in Philadelphia in 1998 by Andrew Martin. With a 15-year track record of success behind us, we look forward to continuing our work reversing the plight of urban youth in this country by creating opportunities for students in STEM programs. Our grand vision is to have urban youth expanded throughout the nation. We created the Urban Youth What It Takes e-mentoring program 3 years ago to help improve the lives of African American boys. Today, over 100 men were recruited from the Philadelphia region, and 200 African American boys use social media to connect. E-mentoring works. We hope the success that we have had over the past 3 years is duplicated nationwide and right here in our city, and that's why you were invited to this particular panel to have that discussion. You guys should all have your e-mentoring guides in your hand, so you can kind of look at it. We also want to thank the Knight Foundation for believing in our e-mentoring program from the start. They gave us a one-time grant of $492,000 to get this program started and rolling. I also want to thank the United Way of Greater Philadelphia and Southern New Jersey for its technical assistance over the past years working on this particular project. It is my pleasure to introduce Donna Christie Greenwood, from the Director of the Knight Foundation here in Philadelphia.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you all for joining us. As Michelle stated, I'm Donna Christie Greenwood, Program Director here in Philadelphia for the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation. We're a national foundation with local roots. We support and invest in programs in the 26 communities where the Knight brothers used to own newspapers, such as the Philadelphia Inquirer and Daily News. Our investments focus on creating a more informed and engaged community, places where people have access to information and can use that information to engage around the things that they care about. To ensure a more informed and engaged community, we ask all of our grantees, such as United Way and the Urban Youth Racing School, to document what they learned and to share their learnings with others in the community. We ask them to do that by blogging, developing guides, and hosting discussions just like this. And so, as we have interest in growing cities and retaining and maximizing talent in cities, we set out to figure out how we were going to engage Black men. What we found when we initiated our BE program, which is Black Male Engagement Initiative, is that talented Black men were already engaged in community. And that if we get them to share their stories, they can help to inspire others who are less engaged. So at Urban Youth Racing School, led by the talented and tenacious Anthony Martin, approached us with this idea of mentoring. Our trustees thought it was important to try this innovative new approach. But only if the racing school agreed to share what they learned. Some people asked us, why urban youth? Not only did they come to us with the idea and not some other large mentoring program, but they already had access to highly successful Black men, something that other mentoring programs struggle with. Additionally, they had a dynamic leader in Anthony. They also, through the Racing School program and Naval Engines program, were already using technology. And we knew they were nimble enough to be able to reiterate if things didn't go exactly as planned. But because they were such a small organization, we were very happy when the United Way stepped in, led by Dr. Cheryl Oakman, and supported them with their mentoring expertise and technical assistance. So what you'll hear today and be able to read about in the guide, which you can download from Urban Youth's website and United Way's website, is not just how successful the program is, but what challenges they face, how they approach the challenges, and how they retooled the program to ensure that it was working effectively to connect Black men and Black boys. If you've ever attended one of the Urban Youth What It Takes symposiums, where they bring the boys and the mentors together, then you know that sportscaster James Brown is usually their moderator. When Michelle and I spoke about today's discussion, I said, "Are you going to get JV?" And she said, "Well, it's football season, and that might be a little difficult." I said, "Okay, well then, who are we going to get to moderate the discussion? I mean, you always have JV, we've got to get like somebody really powerful." And she said, "I was thinking Soledad O'Brien." And I said, "Wow, okay." And then I said to her, I said, "Well, actually, I think I know someone who knows her. And I might have a connection to her." And so I asked my friend Navarro Wright, and he came through. So I want to thank Navarro Wright. For those of you who may not know Navarro, he was actually featured in Soledad, one of other Soledad series on Black in America, about the lack of Blacks in the tech industry. And so Navarro is actually live streaming today as well. So I just really want to take a minute to thank Navarro, because without him, Soledad wouldn't be here with us today. So now I have the pleasure of presenting our moderator. Unless you've been living in a cave, then you have to know this internationally recognized award-winning journalist. She's chairman of Starfish Media Group, and I first remember seeing her on the Today Show. She's a Harvard-educated journalist, and I'll never forget her coverage of Hurricane Katrina. She's reported and anchored for CNN, HBO Real Sports, and Al Jazeera America. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Philly welcome to Soledad O'Brien.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here to talk about what has really been quite an incredible program, and talk a little bit about the founding and some of the challenges and opportunities. So I'm going to bring out our panelists, if I may, first. Come on out, and I'll introduce you as you're coming out. If you open up your program, you'll see full bios for the panelists. So I'm just going to give you a really short, brief introduction to them. And if you are interested in knowing more, you should please look at your program. Anthony Martin is a sports marketing expert who is also the founder of the event program. And he also founded the Urban Youth Racing School, the founder and executive director of the newly formed Urban STEM Academy, a partnership with the U.S. Navy and UYRS. His passion is mentoring and e-mentoring young people. We're going to talk about that this afternoon. Dr. Ashaki Coleman is the CEO and founder of Visionary Education Advocacy Group, specializing in educational research and evaluation. She's also the program director for What It Takes e-mentoring. Her depth of involvement in public education is wide and deep. Please welcome her to our panel. It's nice to have you. Dr. Chuck Williams is a PhD and trained child and adolescent psychotherapist and educational psychologist. He has held faculty appointments at Drexel University in the Department of Psychology and also the School of Education. He's well known and welcome for his work on behalf of the city of young people in Philadelphia. So, really welcome to and Haggins is a Grammy Award-winning, multi-platinum selling songwriter, producer, engineer, and also the co-founder of Karma Productions. He's written top hits for pretty much everybody. Mary J, Jill Scott, Faith Evans, Justin Timberlake, the list kind of goes on and on and on. He's also a reverend and a Sunday school teacher, and he's the youth ministry as well. I'm not getting anything wrong at the Southern Baptist Church in Philadelphia. It's great to have you. So where do you start? I'd like to give us a sense of why you felt this e-mentoring program was critical and why you designed it what you did.
Well, the e-mentoring program was critical because I remember back in 2009, so that President Obama gave his educational speech. He talked about high school dropout. He mentioned Philadelphia, Detroit, and Los Angeles by name having 50% dropout rates. The question I asked myself was, how could I actually help with our African American boys that's trying to of that particular high school graduation rate. So what I did was I formed an organization called the What It Takes Foundation. With the What It Takes Foundation, what I did is I brought successful African American men in with boys to talk about what it took for them to be successful. Not talk at them, talk with them. Because all these successful men were 15, 16, 17 years old also. So the kids need to understand that these guys had pitfalls also too in their lives. From there, what was asked was, how do we continue the conversation? So we do the What It Takes symposium, so the kids are happy and excited to meet these men, but what happens after that? So what we decided to do was, let's do e-mentoring. Let's actually meet these kids, meet these boys where they are. Social media is where they are. I don't know too many kids are not on social media. I don't know if you do also, but social media is where these kids are actually at. And I said, let's actually bring these successful African American men, not just athletes or businessmen, but everyday guys who are successful in their lives, together with these particular boys and discuss the pitfalls of life and things like that in order to help them in their everyday lives. So that's the reason why the e-mentoring was actually formed. That platform was actually formed, was to continue the conversation we were having in the very beginning.
So then, Carvin, as a mentor, walk me through how it works, and what were some of the biggest challenges and opportunities of the program itself?
Well, when I was first introduced to the project, first I came on as a What It Takes panelist, and speaking with the kids and meeting them face to face, you give them your Twitter, you give them your Facebook information, and the kids will reach out on Twitter and Facebook. So when they introduced the whole e-mentoring, it was like, okay, this is really, really wonderful. Come to find out, it worked through LinkedIn. And by way of LinkedIn, there will be a social conversation happening, which the kids will reach out to each individual with just questions and things, just things they needed to know. And just wanted to get a good affirmation or maybe even recommending them on making a decision. So it's almost like they give you a question of what they're thinking, and you can tell them, this is a good thing, and this is why, or this is a bad thing, and this is why you shouldn't do it. And then you'll correspond that, maybe throughout the week we'll have you check on it, and you'll see what the kids are doing. And it seemed like a great idea then, but watching it work and meeting kids later now, you see how effective it was. So it was actually just a blessing to be a part of it.
Ashaki, you do a lot of analysis and assessment of the efficacy of these educational programs. So what did you think was an upside? I mean, as you know, if I play devil's advocate for a minute, I could give you a list of things that people would reel off. What kind of advice can you get from someone who's not in front of you? How can you actually see what they need? Is it Twitter, you wait for them to come to you versus, some kind of a set-up, established meeting, et cetera, et cetera? Give me an analysis of the program.
So, when I think about the biggest upside, it was this shifting in the ways in which the boys began to view social media as a tool. So, as Anthony said, they spend all day either tweeting or texting, or they use technology as a way to communicate and connect and have fun. And we help them to see the ways in which they can use technology as a valuable tool to access knowledge and mentors. So it's not just about having fun. So a lot of power rests in what you can do online. And one of the first things that we had the boys do year 2 is to reevaluate their Facebook or their MySpace profile. And we didn't give much structure to the conversation. Just, take a look at it, talk to each other. What do you think? They began to critique each other. Man, why do you have that up there? Oh, look at that. And it served as a starting point for a conversation about first impressions and lasting impressions online. And so we saw this consistent shift in the ways in which they began to think about not only how they use social media as a way to help them to be more successful, but also the ways in which they present themselves via social media.
Take us into the mind of a young man. And what kind of opportunities outside of the switch in seeing social media as fun hanging out with my friends versus, a tool that I can actually leverage information and people who are more powerful than me? Walk me through some of these kinds of upsides.
Well, first of all, Soledad, I'm glad that you chose a 13-year-old and now to talk about the life of a young male. But I was doing my training in child and adolescent psychiatry in Philadelphia, so a lot of the young people that I saw were young boys. And they had attention problems and learning problems, and I was doing my clinical thing. But at one point I was having a conversation with one of my clinical supervisors at home, and I said, I feel like this kid is missing something that maybe I'm not providing. And she said to me, you know, half of the job of a helping professional is just showing up, just being there. And when we do that, that can be therapeutic. So then you fast forward a couple of years, and I'm at the Institute for the Development of African American Youth, and there's this new citywide mentoring initiative called the Adolescent Violence Reduction Partnership. And I'm a program director, and I'm walking through some of these neighborhoods like in Germantown where I was stationed, and there are all these young men who are looking for people to connect with them. And I got to see in real time that when men, like this young man right here, took time out of a busy day, busy schedule, and hey, that night showed up, right, and said, I have no agenda, I'm just here to help. And the way in which I'm going to provide that help is by spending time with you. And it's really that simple. And we need more of that. The research is pretty clear that the magic thing that happens in mentoring is that relationship between the young person who needs to be guided and the older, usually more learned guide. Not only can it help with educational outcomes, but also can help with kids, as I said, emotional problems, learning problems. And we have a lot of kids, not just in Philadelphia, but throughout this country, who don't have those kinds of things that we take for granted, like a parent, like a mother, like a father. And the most ideal situation, we need to be up for having this conversation. But what we know is that far as many of our kids don't have that positive adult role model in their lives, showing them that the right thing to do is, and then being that sounding board, that non-judgmental sounding board, offering unconditional support and love people. The absence of having those positive role models in the lives of millions of kids, disproportionately Black kids and Latino kids. As I often say when I talk about this, the reason why we need mentors in our community sometimes is because our men spend more time in the barbershop than they do with their own kids. So because of that, somebody's got to stand in and take their place. And that's what mentors do, and the kids desperately need it.
Talk to us about how you pick the mentors, how you pick the young men who are part of the program, and if there is an opportunity, because it's e-mentoring, that allows you to kind of have a bigger choice of those who are going to be mentoring.
So how we pick, because we actually partner with the Philadelphia School District, so that we actually partner, I think, 7 schools and a couple of charter schools also. So we actually went in and picked, I think it was 9th and 10th grade we actually focused on in the very beginning. And as far as the mentors go, as far as the men go, as I mentioned, I would have these high-profile events, these successful men. But again, we reached out, if I had events and things like that, to try to attract more men to participate in being a part of it. To be perfectly honest with you, and actually doing this, we had a hard time finding men to be a part of this. For different reasons. I mean, you can go as far as saying background checks were a problem, a lot of personal, I guess, confidence in themselves. Like, I guess a lot of men feel like, hey, I got to mentor someone, and the confidence level in themselves is not high. And they have other problems too. So it was a definite challenge in actually finding them, but they're out there for sure. And one of the things we'll let you know is you have to be a star athlete or a successful businessman to mentor someone. A lot of with these kids, like a lot of these boys who are actually mentoring, a lot of these boys, they want mentoring. I mean, the sign is a lot of these kids are bad kids. A lot of kids are not bad kids. Let's be someone to show them the way. And I don't want someone to show them the way. So, in actually doing that, and actually this e-mentoring program, and with what it takes symposiums, we were able to start that. We want to be able to finish that. So we need more men. We need more men. I'm actually calling out, we need more men to participate, be a part of it. And again, you don't have to be some successful business person or some successful athlete to be a part of this.
And then also, with e-mentoring, when you say that, a lot of men didn't really know what that meant. They know what mentoring is.
So what does it mean? What is the specific?
And so they just know for the one blanket definition. And so, for the purposes of our program, it was the idea that you would commit to a minimum of weekly electronic communication with your mentor. And it was a major shift between year 1 and year 2 in terms of what that looks like. So year 1, we started a platform that had a curriculum that was aligned to our program goals, that would give us lots of reports, and we did our due diligence in ensuring that alignment. And the communication looked like the students going on, and they would engage us on activities, and then they would submit that to the mentor, and the mentor would respond. So it sort of felt like work, you know? And they were hungry for more organic, natural, meaningful, genuine connections about topics of mutual interest. And so in year 2, we went to more of a multimedia delivery of curriculum. Some of it was pre-planned, others were based on themes that generated from the students. And so now we have a situation where there are some topics that we structure, but we open the space for them to really talk about whatever it is they want to talk about. So the idea of just showing up and having those conversations and connecting, that was a huge part of the shift that we knew we needed, so that someone who wondered, well, what can I contribute to this? They can see just by having a conversation, the wisdom that you've learned through life, you know, is going to be of value to a young boy who may or may not have that.
Talk to me a little bit about some of your successes. Tell me about a young man or men that you have had a chance to mentor.
Well, what's really funny, a kid I met 2 years ago on the platform continued to reach out to me, and he ended up finding me on Facebook, and again, we communicated through Twitter, and just recently, I went to Atlanta to do a television show with Ken Fields, and the kid moved to Atlanta, so he came, I invited him to the set, and he actually got the opportunity to be in the show. So it actually works out great, and going back to the question that you gave to Anthony, the great point about being able to be here is when they made the call to me, it was instant. So they said, I said, I'll be there. I didn't know what it was all about, but I wanted to be a part of it. Only because where I came from, there was a man named Soledad, who I was that kid. So I was a kid that was out there hustling, doing whatever you wanted to do, how you wanted to do it. My father wasn't there, my mother was raising us, but she was working. So I was the man of the house. So without playing, one day he saw me out playing, and he called me over. He said, "Come here to talk to me real quick." I said, "What's going on, man?" And he said, "Listen, my son looks up to you. I don't know why, but he looks up to you." He said, "So give him something to look up to." And that was such a charge on my life that I had to do it. I had to find a way to make sure whatever I was doing, when he saw me, it looked pristine. And that actually was a part of the driving point for me to get on focus and on point to move, to be to success. So when that arm was reached out to me, it was like, that's something I have to give back. It's important that I give that back, because just those words were enough to deviate me. I was going this way, and that just put me in a whole new trajectory, and it worked out perfect for me.
This is what a lot of kids grow up with. Many of us don't think about it. Well, of course there's a parent, of course there's a house, of course there's peace, and of course there's dinner. And a lot of those things actually don't exist for a lot of kids. Tell me about that relationship between the mentor and the mentee, and how critical it is, especially at the age that we're talking about for these young men.
Well, when we talk about the fact that we take for granted the fact that all the things that kids need don't exist, we don't always have appropriate role models, or appropriate parents, and always even get things like the food in the eat, right? Which is part of the problem we have in education. How do you focus on learning and doing practice even better than that before? The reason why I'm so committed to this, and this answers the question, is because before the joint faculty appointments and sitting on a panel with distinguished people like you and the audience, I was in foster care. And when I went into foster care, I had no idea what my life was going to be. I definitely didn't see this. But the difference between Dr. Chuck and just Chuck, and I am Dr. Chuck, is a mentor.
Was a mentor.
And the mentor was a social worker who worked at a group home where I lived. So he had a job, but he was also a mentor. And essentially what he did was he was honest, he was candid with me, he was there for me. He was someone that I knew no matter what happened, he was always, well, he would always be there. Interestingly enough, I'm now mentoring him for his doctor's program. So, again, that magic was that relationship that we had that said that he was not going to judge me, that his support was unconditional, and that he was interested in me as a human being and as a person. And that did so much to me. Like he shared his story, it really transformed my life because, like I said, despite all the education, I graduated high school with 1.91 GPA. I started at Community College of Philadelphia. I folks don't know this. I started at Community College of Philadelphia. My first semester, I got 2 X's, 2 zeros. But that mentor was still there. Today, one of the challenges that we have at mentoring is that we don't understand this basic concept, which is that you have to meet young people where they are. So, for example, there are young people that I mentor off the books that may be selling drugs, but that's not why I'm there. I'm there to show them a different way, and on their own time, they will make a decision to take a different path. But what I know is the reason why they're there is because there aren't people like me. So without judgment, I'm going to be there.
What have been some challenges in the program? Walk me through some of the things that have been realistically very tough.
So one of the initial challenges really centered around implementation. And the idea that our first approach was that we're going to go into these schools, we're going to partner with them, the kids are going to come after school once a week and participate in e-minutes.
And he's technically laughing at this.
Why was that so ridiculous?
I mean, it sounds like it would make perfect sense.
What we realized is that finding, again, meeting kids where they are. So if we're able to attach ourselves to an existing cause, purpose, mission, program, and then e-mentoring becomes a way to enhance what's already taking place, your success is practically ensured. It doesn't mean that it's guaranteed, but assuming that your kids have to work, they have homework, they have siblings to pick up, and so often it wasn't that they did not want to be there, they just could not be there. We also tried to have it take place during the school day, maybe during the study hall. And even that became a bit challenging. And so the idea of attaching ourselves to an existing program would help us to overcome that. And it would also do was it helped to ensure that we had school coordinators that were youth advocates and mentors themselves. Because it's one thing to have someone agree to meet at the school with kids and kind of proctor them in their own line. It's another to have someone who genuinely has a vested interest in kids realizing and maximizing this opportunity in the room to set the stage for the e-mentoring session. And so shifting our mindset to realizing that we need mentors on the ground to help the kids engage in this e-mentoring was one of the ways we were able to overcome that.
And how often does the e-mentoring shift into, if they ask you this, is it face-to-face? Is it almost every relationship there is some kind of they meet up? Is it 90% online and 10% face? Are there any cases where actually they never really meet up?
Actually, it's probably like 90% online, 10% other direction. Because again, with the mentoring side of it, again, so that we want it to be, with all these different situations going on out here, with child abuse and problems going on the internet, things like that, we have to be very careful with that. So we wanted to have almost like limited contact, to be honest with you. Wanted the conversation to go on, but kind of limited contact. Now, ultimately, as I think Carvin mentioned, that some of these kids who are part of this, they want to continue to be a part of this, and they want to continue to reach out. And then ultimately, they're going to become friendly with that mentor. They'll get to know who that mentor is. Okay, and I think that's important for these kids because life is about relationship building. That's what it's about. It's about building relationships, things like that, and following up with those relationships. Because again, with the internet, I want to mention this really fast too, is the internet could be also a negative too. I'm going through that right now with a client of mine, a professional athlete, who I'm working on a deal with right now, who actually had a huge deal, and guess what? They found him in a video on the internet. Guess what? That deal is being revisited today. Right now, it's usually right now because of that. So then it could be a negative also too. So you have to be really careful with that. But to answer your question specifically, I would say it's probably 90% internet-based and maybe 10% or even less than that as far as physical.
For the kids that you were mentoring, did you feel like you needed to have a face-to-face element? I know I've done a little mentoring unofficially, and I always kind of like the idea of looking someone in the eye, and I don't know how I feel about only having a relationship over email and stuff.
You know, I'm definitely a face-to-face person. Most of the people I work with, I'm even the first I work with them or I'm creative with them. So I'm about the face-to-face, but I do understand how important it is just to be able to text, tweet, Facebook, whatever. I understand the importance, and really it's almost like having a friend in your pocket. You know what I mean? Like, and they'll text and hit you up immediately if there's anything that's going on that they don't feel comfortable about. So I mean, it's challenging, but I love the idea that no matter what, we can reach you. So that way you're not really interrupting my day, and I'm not interrupting your day. I can work, and then if it's that important, I'll stop working, concentrate to make sure we give you all of the right answers that you need to get back to doing what you're doing.
Did you find that the students were forthcoming with their dilemmas? I've experienced occasionally, and I learned from them, actually, kids are kind of getting a little older, that when they send you a text that says, hey, it actually means, I want to talk to somebody, I would be like, hey, no,
Absolutely.
and then later I go, oh, this is the opening of our conversation. I get it.
Absolutely, and what's great about it is, you know, most kids are afraid to speak on what it is that's going on with them, especially face to face. So you see them face to face, you're like, what's going on? Nothing, cool, chilling. But then later on, they'll text you like, man, my dad, I'm going through this in school, and they'll give you a more candid conversation through text. Because it's almost like being able to tweet without worrying about the repercussions of tweet. It's like putting your feelings out there, but the whole world can't see. It's just between you and your mentor. So when I get that type of relationship and they're open, it's very, very good because it's personal and it works out perfect.
I want to just tell people we've got microphones, and I want to invite anybody who wants to come down and ask a question to go ahead and do so as I continue doing the interview. Let me ask you a few things. That there are gaps in education or sort of gaps in the school day as a whole that e-mentoring could successfully help bridge.
Right. As President Clinton has fond of saying, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So, the reason why e-mentoring can be important is because, again, we take for granted that there are far too many children who look like us in this family, who don't even at times have access to transportation to get to school, to get to an after-school program. They need as many avenues as possible to reach adults who care. Beyond that, sometimes in our schools, in far too many instances, the reason why we see problems with achievement is people aren't culturally responsive. Like you just said, you know, I don't feel like talking right now. I'm sure like me, I don't know if you want me to start texting, y'all need, right? That cultural connection can be the difference between a young person feeling comfortable with you or not. They don't always get that in school. That's another reason why we need mentors to sort of clean up the mess created by all the problems that we see in public education. Back in the day, a teacher would be a mentor. And today we still have some teachers who are mentors, but you can't mentor if you're judging at the same time. So mentoring can fill a gap, as I've said, in so many instances, in so many places where young people just need a positive connection with the caring adult.
I want to open this up to questions. We have a microphone right there and a microphone right there. So if you have a question, come on up and feel free to post it to anybody on the panel. Give me a sense of the scope of this program now. How big is it, and what's your next step in trying to grow it?
Well, I think that the scope of programs, we're actually growing right now. And they talk about the e-mentoring program, we're looking to take that program national. You know, so We're looking to be in 5 other marketplaces within the next 4 to 5 years. I think that e-mentoring has a home. I think e-mentoring will be successful. I think that a lot of folks weren't really sure about it in the very beginning. But I think it's something that Carvin has said was very important, the fact that e-mentoring, too, made it very comfortable for both the mentor and the mentee. He's busy, guess what, he can still get a mentor, e-mentor. Same thing with the kids. So I see e-mentoring being something that's going to be long-lasting, very successful in the future, for sure. And I look forward to us actually growing this particular project nationwide in the next couple of years.
Have you found success in a certain kind of platform where you say, listen, we've decided that Twitter is actually bad, or it's going to be just direct email, or Facebook, or are you sort of agnostic when it comes to that?
So I think it really depends on, again, which platform is going to be sort of most familiar in terms of the ways in which students feel comfortable communicating. And so we presented LinkedIn to students this year as a professional Facebook. You guys are on Facebook. Then LinkedIn, you communicate in the same way. They know the platform. We didn't have to train them on how to use the platform. What we did was change the ways in which they thought about their presentation on the platform. And so I can't say enough of the power in their ability to access information and mentor. They all have their phones. So we had them ensure they had LinkedIn on their phone. So that if you're in school and you don't have access to a computer, you can do all of this on your phone. And so it worked for our students this year. And so I would say really understanding the mode that your students use with this communication. Meet them there and just have them think differently about what they're doing there.
We have some questions, and I'm going to have you give us your name and then tell me who you'd like to ask the question of.
Okay, good evening. My name is Wayne Williams, and I am a special education teacher with Kansas City Public Schools. And this is actually a statement to you, Soledad. A few years ago, you was in Atlantic City, and you had addressed the teachers at the New Jersey convention in Atlantic City. It was right around the time when you had the Blacks in America, I believe it was your first show, and it was a success here in this country. And I asked the question, well, would you consider doing another program around education? You hesitantly said, well, we probably will consider it, but I'm honored and glad to be here today while you're doing your kickoff on Black in America in the education program.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I was hesitant because, as I'm sure you're well aware, TV news is not exactly running around dying to do stories on education. Yes, more education stories, wow. But we've been really fortunate not only in being able to do a couple of documentaries since that very first Black America that focused on education, some for Black Americans, and others that were just documentaries about education across the country, and science education specifically. So we felt very lucky that we're now shooting our 7th Black America, and they're expensive to shoot, so we feel really grateful for that funding. Thanks for the question and comment. Hi.
Good afternoon. My name is Marla Davis-Bellamy, and I represent Temple University School of Medicine, and I have a question for Mr. Martin. At Temple, we actually employ 14 young people who are actually working diligently to mentor high-risk young people who've been engaged in high-risk activity. However, out of the 14, 11 of those are ex-offenders. And you mentioned background checks, and I'm just wondering, given that we're in a city with over 300,000 ex-felons walking the city, whether or not they too can take part in this program.
Well, I mean, actually they can take part. It depends on, I guess, what the felony is, to be honest with you. As long as it's not something major. And I don't want to get into that, but as long as it's not something major, they can participate. Again, I recommend that they participate. Again, I think that it's important they understand that they can participate. Again, because when you talk about felonies, things like that, the first thing someone thinks is, wow, I got this felony, that's going to come back. Well, not, in some cases, it's not going to come back. And in this particular case here, mentors, again, depending on the severity of the problem, that person can participate.
The other quick question I just had is, you mentioned, President Obama mentioned Philadelphia in terms of dropout rate. But you mentioned that the young people that you're mentoring are school-age, 9th and 10th graders. Is there any plans to mentor those young people who actually have dropped out?
Can you repeat that question? Can you repeat that?
You mentioned that you're mentoring 9th and 10th graders. However, one of the reasons why you became involved in this initiative is because you were concerned about the dropout rate. So I'm just wondering whether or not there are plans to mentor those young people who have dropped out.
Well, it's a good question. To be honest with you, I really thought about it, to be honest with you. Because we had such a strong focus on keeping kids in school. I haven't really had such a big focus on kids who have dropped out and actually really focusing on that. But it's something that I would definitely have interest in, for sure. Because again, like my program, my urban youth racing school program, which I started 15 years ago, I had a 98% high school graduation rates in my program. And that was the reason why, when President Obama spoke about high school dropout, for me, I was like, how can we help? How can we actually be a part of this? So that was the reason why I actually did that. So to answer your question, I haven't really thought about it, but it's something that I would definitely give some thought to for sure.
Well, we would definitely like to work with you on that issue, if you'd be interested.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. What a great suggestion. Hi there.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Joy, and I really want to commend you for the whole panel for your outstanding work that you're doing, because it is around collaboration. One of the things that we found when we talked about, you got to meet the students where they are, and then bring them into the world of, I call it the zone of excellence. And so one of the issues that I'm really focused on is around bullying and violence. And we talked about this, and it's important about taming and training our tongue. We've got to tame and train our tongue, because our words and our actions and our deeds, they either help advance the student to think differently, it's a possibility, or you pipeline them into jail. One of the questions that I have is, through your data, is there some kind of, I'm not familiar with your data collection process, but is there some kind of indicators that are coming up in reference to how, the kids are relating? And the reason why I'm asking that question is, just as we are here getting to know you, the kids have got to see kids that are their age that are successful as well. So my question is, the students who have been successful in your program, is there a possibility that we can look at partnering together so they actually serve as the mentor to let other kids know that, they're dealing with the bullying? Look, this is better way of doing things.
So I'd ask that question too, which is, give me a sense of what your definition of success is. And then in fact, of those kids who are successful, what's your future picture of what they can go on to do? Thanks for the question.
Question for me? So for me, to answer your question, Dr. Joy, and you're going to have this conversation for sure, is the fact that we would love to work with you, in part with you, and actually look at some of our students as far as being mentors and actually helping with your anti-bullying campaign. To answer Soledad's question, I think that for me, when I'm thinking of success in our program, it's not just high school graduation, but also college graduation too. I think that because, again, if you think about it for a second, think about today's time right now. Many years ago, I guess if you had a high school diploma, you go out and get a job, you'd be fine. Today, it's almost like you need a master's degree in order to get a good job. That's where we're going right now. You really think about it, technology and things like that, and education. So for me, success is not just high school graduation, but college graduation. So, and I think a lot of people think that with our program that we feel successful and we feel satisfied with the kid graduating from high school. No, that's not the case. We want them to go a lot further with their education. Now, some kids are not going to go to college, but as long as those kids actually go to trade school or take some type of trade, whatever it might be successful, and that's what it's all about.
So we have a long number of people who just decided to get up and join our line, which is scaring me a little bit considering what time it is. But I'm going to do our lightning round, which is you're going to do me a favor and keep your questions very tight. And our panel is going to do their best to keep their answers very tight. I'm going to try to get everybody. Go ahead.
Good evening. I'm the chair for the parent committee. My question is to Dr. Chuck. How do you mentor without judging? Where in social media now, that's all people do is judge one another through the social media. So I just wanted to know for a parent as well as a mentor, how you the social media platform and mentor without throwing judgment in there.
Isn't part of it?
Excellent question. No, it's not. And not you, but in general, you think that you should be your mentoring.
But to answer your question quickly, the job of parents and their surrogates, mentors, is to block out all those things that we think are deleterious, in other words, can negatively impact the life of a child. So as I say to my nephew, I don't give a damn what they're doing on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and forums. When you're with me, there's a certain way I expect you to behave. A part of that is no name calling, we're not judging each other, we're here to build each other up as opposed to tearing each other down, which is why we create that safe space with that external relationship outside of social media, empowering them to go on social media talking about bullying and being able to stand up for themselves and be an advocate on their own behalf.
Next question.
Hi, John Bush here, CEO of a company called DAA. My question is actually a follow-on to that, is how do you, as mentors, deal with situations where the parent is a negative influence for the child?
Interesting. Well, have you done that?
Well, it's funny you asked that because I was at a position where my mother was a negative influence. But as a mentor, the idea of it is I can never escape my history. So looking back at my history, realizing the things that are affecting me from growing, instead of making a judgment call even on the parent, I can just say, listen, here's where we're going to start. You're not what they say you are. You're greater than anything that they say you are. Whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, you can achieve it. I was homeless. And if I come from homeless, you can come from where you are right now. So it's pretty much just putting leveling the ground and taking all and building walls up to block out all of the negativity and just show them a positive way to move. And that's pretty much how it works.
To add to that, one of the things that we would say to because they would say things like that, is the idea that life is just sort of 10% what happens to you, and 90% what you choose to do about it, and how you choose to come through that, to help them to not feel so limited about their current situation.
Thanks for the question. Next question.
Tom Butler, Philadelphia College Prep Roundtable and Black LinkedIn has just added a policy, changing the policy to add college students to high school. You think you had something to do with that? And if not, now they have changed the policy to add high school students legitimately and college students legitimately. How would you process engaging?
One of the things that we chose to do was to ensure that we had closed LinkedIn groups. I still believe that, especially in our mentoring program, it was important for us to protect these young boys that we have brought to this online environment so that they only interacted with the mentors that passed our background. And so for our purposes, that really wouldn't change at all because we're the reason why we're there. And so keeping them protected is going to be really important.
Although I think if LinkedIn sold the idea for you, they should send you a check. Next question. We have just 2 more questions. Go ahead, sir.
Cool. Hello, my name is Donald Powell. I represent Philadelphia Young Playwrights. We just actually launched a mentor program called the Paulo Local Mentorship Program, where we're bringing in fab professional playwrights from the Eastern Corridor and bringing them to Philadelphia to mentor 5 high school students throughout a year-long process where they'll end up writing a play to be performed at the Art and Theater. My question is, after this year-long process, we're trying to, create a case study, some type of scholarly article to share to the rest of the field. So my question is, what are some best practices as far as like assessment and evaluation?
So I think the first thing you have to figure out is the type of evaluation that you really want to conduct. And so you think about implementation. People underestimate taking the time to really study implementation and what that looks like. And so that's one thing that you do from a case study perspective. What are some of the challenges to implementation? How did you move from sort of what you planned to what you really enacted and the struggles there? You could also think of more of an outcomes type of evaluation. So these were our goals, and you can talk about the extent to which you met those goals. And so you have to first be really clear what's the story that you want to tell, and then you think about the metrics that you need to gather data to tell that story.
Our final question, go ahead, sir.
My name is Kerry Fulford, the Coalition of Schools Educating Boys of Color. We actually participated in the program at Germantown High School. My question is, now with the downsizing of schools, with all students being rerouted to different schools, what is being put in place in terms of follow-up for those who recently in the program who are now being displaced in schools that they may not have access to the technology they had at the other schools that allow them to be involved in it?
How's the challenge of tracking these students over time?
So that's one of the benefits of LinkedIn. Previously, in the platform that we had, there would be no way to track them. Whereas LinkedIn is sort of this public entity, they're still in the group, we haven't picked them up. And so they're able to sort of continue that relationship that they started with their mentor. We're able to add additional mentors to the group. And so the opportunities are endless for them.
What a great way to end to our panel. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for being with us.
So please thank Soledad and our panelists. And others were really excited when our other grantees are in the room. So the young Philadelphia young playwrights and John Lassiere, I'm really excited that they're connecting with urban youth. Because we always love for our grantees to connect to one another, because you are an elite group of Knight Foundation grantees. And so one of the partnerships that evolved is a next step for Urban Youth Racing School, in that John Lassiere, who spoke, owns a company called Ashaki, and also I think we started a company called Metal Air, too, that started. He's a technologist, and so John is going to be connecting the young people in the e-mentoring program here in Philadelphia, and they're going to begin having conversations and connecting with each other electronically with young people that are in Uganda, where he's doing work. And so we're really excited about sort of the next iteration and the growth that's going to happen for this e-mentoring program. And that comes from just our grantees connecting, and that's really important for us. I see a number of our other grantees in the room. Cole Ron Walker, who's partnered in this initiative as well. And I just also want to recognize, he had to leave, but State Representative George Harris was here with us, and I want to thank him publicly for joining us today. Also Mr. Stokes, again, for opening up the high school of the future for our conversation. We know how difficult it was to start something at 4 o'clock when your school doors are just closing down at 3 o'clock. So we really appreciate your hosting us here and being with us. All of you are invited to a reception. It's going to be up the steps. We're going to have a brief reception following this, and then come back down at 6 o'clock for the conversation and screening of Black in America 6. So thank you.